So here we are, another day, another video. I just want to welcome you to this time lapse. It is a time lapse of the painting Justitia, header as posing as Justitia. I'm just going to show you the photo that I painted it from, and it's this. And some of you have probably seen the full tutorial. It's like 10 hours long, almost. And there's a lot of information in that one. There's also chapters, so please go look at that. This time lapse is now it is almost an hour long, or maybe an hour long. It's because I just took every single chapter and kind of just did it time lapse it once, so it doesn't go that fast. And I will add in audio voiceover, and explain everything about painting while it runs. So yeah, as you can see, this is the photo I used. And what I do actually is that I print out some close-ups, and I print out details, and you'll probably see me paint, and that is the way I like to do it. I've seen some people actually use maybe an iPad or something to look at the photos, but I think it kind of changes every time I look at something with a bright light. It changes the color perception. So I like to use only prints, and I use a huge Canon printer now. I used to use Epson, but I use an A2 printer to print these in a very high quality. So if you want have good quality tools, you have to invest a little bit in that. So with this, I'm going to leave you to it, and I hope you can give this video a thumbs up. It's so important for the algorithm these days. And also, if you leave a comment and tell me what you think and ask me questions, I can do that. I also just started doing live streams, so if you want to talk to me live, you can do that when I live stream. And if you want to support my channel or have me as an art teacher, you can go to my PATRON, sign up there for one of the tiers. Or if you just want to support my work, you can do that by buy me a coffee. You'll find links in the description and on my channel. So with this, I just say cheers with my coffee. Like that. I'm a big coffee drinker, so go buy me a coffee. I'm just going to pull this towards me here, like this. So here we are at the start, part 1, starting the sketching process. As you've probably seen many times before, and I explained, is that I use linen canvas, which is already prepped with one layer of gesso. Then I take and I put it on the frame, and I add in 2 more layers of gesso. And I also try to control some of the textures. In this one, I actually did some work on the canvas, so I tried to create some textures and brushwork in the gesso itself. And then I take my råumber, usually from Winsor & Newton, and I take some terp, and I just kind of glaze over it, so I get this darkened toned canvas. The reason why I do that is so that I can start by basically building light. In this one, you can see that the face is more in the dark, so I start with the light areas in the hair, and I just start working from that. As you also see, I don't use any tracing. I just hang up the photo beside what I'm going to do, and I try to just kind of take a picture in my head, move it over, and just keep on adding information, more and more information. Since I'm not that classically tutored, I have learned by myself, so I have basically my own way of doing things. So I'd start just with a very rough sketch and I keep on going. So that's what I'm basically doing. Yeah. Now in part 2 you can see that I have actually gone a little bit further, and I have added some more light and textures and brushwork and stuff. You see it's still very loose. I keep it very open. I just try to get this thing in step by step. So the most important thing I think is to get the first object on the canvas in the right place, and that is what I try to do. Because if you don't use tracing, or you use some people I see they line things up, and they do a lot of things. They even line up the photograph and they try to get it so perfect, and I do like better to do this in a more open way, and that I have to mold it and go back and forth and deal with all the mistakes I do, deal with all the frustration. I just saw a person actually who did interior, and he just took away most of his paint because he didn't like what he had done. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. Yeah, I just keep doing the face here. What he did was, when he kind of talked about values and stuff, that he didn't like it, but I wouldn't actually take away the paint. I wouldn't start over unless I had painted the head on a totally wrong place, so it would in the future just screw up the whole composition. So I spend a lot of time on the head. I'm counting, as you maybe seen before, I'm counting how many times a head goes into the canvas, and I try to get the right place. Usually I do mistakes, but if the mistakes aren't that big, I just let it stay like that, and I let it dry, and then I rather work over it and start breaking it down again and build up, instead of actually taking away everything. Because as I told him, I was on Instagram, I wouldn't do it like that, because I would like the time which is put into the brushwork and all the touching and all the adjusting and all the mistakes and all this. I would just let it be there, and I would just let it dry, glaze over it, and just keep on working over that and move stuff around. And then in the end, the whole thing would basically be touched by element, almost like I always say, like a piece of wood thrown into the sea, been jumping around in all the elements. In a way, a sea water or fresh water, whatever, it is basically mathematics grinding into another object created by the mathematics of the universe. So in many ways it is information clashing with information, and then creating new information or altering information into what you see in a finished piece of driftwood. Here you can see me going a little bit further out, and here I'm starting to fill out the whole canvas. You see I basically got things right where I wanted them. I just need a sip of my coffee, and then I start to add in more of the figure. Now in the light areas I try to really just go crazy with the thickness of the paint, because I know that I'm later going to build the whole thing as a relief or a sculpture. So I kind of just keep on adding texture there. Sometimes I've experienced maybe 1 or 2 times where I have done too much, and it was in a very small face, and that painting process, or that painting is called Helga with roses. And there I actually took a knife and I removed a lot of texture from the small face because I noticed that I had simply gone too far. And here you can see I'm working on the face again. And if you do go way too far, and it has dried, so it's basically sticks out of the canvas, and you then remove some of the paint, many of the brushwork and the textures will be left anyway. So you don't actually losing that time that I was talking about in the beginning. Yeah. If you like me to do more of these long time lapses where you can actually see what I do, and I can explain basically more in depth about painting, because as you know, I usually fall into the trap talking about everything else when I'm doing my long painting tutorials, and I sometimes, or most of the time, actually forget to talk about painting. So tell me in comments what you think, and if you think this is a good solution to create some time lapses that is longer and where I actually talk more about painting. Now here you can see I'm starting to add in the curls. You have to remember this too. I'm not a photorealist. I'm a painter. I like paint. Despite that, I do try to get it to become a little bit troverdig or believable, as we say troverdig in Norway. And here you can see in this segment in the original I'm explaining brushwork, so maybe I should do that. I try to, despite that I use a lot of brushwork and I try to add a lot of textures and stuff, I do try to have the brushwork to have some address, and that is with brushwork. You don't want to add brushwork for its own sake. You can actually do that in the light areas and stuff, but you want to focus it. I've seen people that fall into that trap where they think that the more brushwork all over the place, the better. But what you actually have to do is to focus it. Like, let's see, I'm going a little bit far further here. Here you can, so yeah. When I use brushwork in the background now, I also think about what I'm doing in the hair. Because I want to, despite there being texture and stuff in the background, I want to keep that down. So despite that, I try to build a plaster wall, and I try to build the wooden thing that is behind there and stuff, and get this wooden feeling and a plaster feeling and a wall. I don't want it to compete with the hair or the textures and the brushwork in the main object, or the most important places where the light is. So you can't just pour in as much in the background as in the foreground if you want the foreground to come out. And you can see that in classical paintings, that when to create depth, you have to basically choose very much how and where you focus your brushwork. That is very important. You can't do the same textures, the same structures all over the place. In a way you do, but you do it on different levels. Also, which is very important when you work, is that you use different pressures on the brush. I'm gonna teach start learning to playing the piano, and one of the reasons why I like piano music so good is that when you are pushing the keyboard, or whatever you call it, tangenter, as you call it in Norway, you can't just press them the same pressure, because it will be a very monotone gonna play the Moonlight Sonata or something, and every note sounds the same because you're using the same pressure. The same thing is with brushwork. You have to also learn pressure, the way you hold the brush. They're different. If you wanna, also you have to think about the directions. How do you have to look at the object you are painting, if it is a still life, if it is a human being, if it's skin. You have to figure out the best way to hold the brush, the best way to do the directions so you actually follow the shape of the object. There are many layers of things that you have to do to get this feeling of a certain amount of reality in it. Here you can see, actually you see that brush there. I put when I put the first brush on there and put that light in, I kind of drag it sideways. You can see that now. You see that I'm dragging it sideways. Then I start to kind of do it, since the face is going kind of in, I try to drag so I get this inward angle of the brush. And then of course you have to vary this because you get longer in. You see here in the background I use a different angle on the brush, and then you just figure this out over time. And here you can see that I'm starting to use the light in the background to create the hair. I start to add in more light there, and yeah, and that is the beauty of this. This is what I called deep flow. When I go into these things and I really start to add in more and more detail. In this one also I struggled very much with the colors, because if you can see in her face there is a lot of blue, there's a lot of greenish colors, there's many, so I had real problems actually figuring out exactly what colors it was. I'm not sure if this is the best face I ever painted, but because of the angle and everything, but in the end, at least I think the customer was very pleased with it. And but I may see that it could have been. It's hard to say. What I would say here, I basically reached my skill wall, because I have this skill wall I talk about. You actually keep on painting and you adding as much of your skill in that you possibly can. And at some point, because I'm not finished as an artist, I'm not there yet. I don't even think there is something called coming there yet. So I will always come to a point in a painting where I reach some sort of skill wall. I think over time and with more peace of mind and stuff like that, I will be able to put in way more time in every piece, and maybe over time be able to overcome more and more of these skill walls. My goal would be, as a painter, I think, to get to a point where I can mix Impressionism, Rembrandt and Vermeer and Turner. Now these four, you know, the colors of the Impressionists, the textures and brushwork of Turner, William Turner and Rembrandt, and then the clarity of Vermeer. Now, I don't expect to ever become, of course, as good as any of these famous artists, and there are many reasons for that. One of them is that I started very late. I was basically 21 when I started out. There's actually a video on my YouTube channel where I show my earlier works and how I evolved as an artist. And I couldn't paint, and I draw like a 10-year-old or 8-year-old or something like that. Actually, I had an 8-year-old visitor that visited me in my studio a few days ago, and he was actually better than me now. A friend of mine who has a son who loves drawing and painting, so he took him to get so inspired, and I showed him my first drawings when I was 21, and I showed him that you are way better than I was when I was 21, so you have a great future in front. Now the boy was just over himself of enthusiasm, and I showed him to use objects, how to think about brushwork, as I've been telling you now, and he was really inspired, and I hope he continues with it, because most young people start losing it when they get into puberty and they start chasing girls. As I told him, I loved drawing and painting and stuff when I was a child, but I even started writing fictional stories after I saw the first Star Wars movie and everything. And I was kind of a strange kid, I guess. I had some alone time because I was kind of pushed out a little bit of the circle. And I maybe have a little bit of, maybe I have some Asperger's tendency, and I do know that I have my ADHD and my hypomania, and that is basically why I felt so good when I had my alone time with my creative stuff. I also did a lot of other stuff that was creative. So I do hope I can inspire this young boy to actually don't stop doing it, because he can have a really great future. I also told him to basically avoid doing digital work and keep doing physical painting, because you can see that AI and digital painting and stuff like that, which is of course not painting. The dumbest thing I know is when they say, "Oh, digital painting is like painting." No, it isn't like painting. Painting is like painting. I saw this video by accident on YouTube today of a guy who was doing impressionist digital painting, and I really, it almost makes me want to puke in a cup, because there is no such thing. Impressionist painting is about paint. It is about brushwork. It is about layers on top of layers. It is about everything that is the ultimate painting process. Now you can see here what I mean. Here is this is also in a way impressionistic made. You will see that in the end of this video when I show you more of the close-ups of the textures and stuff. And what I do is catching the impression of the colors, and I keep adding layer upon layer, and I let the layers underneath kind of enhance the layers on top with brushwork and stuff. And you can't do that with digital painting. Digital painting also is a program that actually doing the work for you. Must be very hard to actually make a bad digital painting, because the tools you use are already has a program that imitates good brushwork, or as good as it can be when it's not 3D. So for me, that's just cheating. I can't even understand why people would waste time on learning digital painting when they could actually do real painting and create physical objects that will stick around forever, or for a very long time anyway. And having that physical process where you also smell the paint, you are moving physically the brush, and all these things that makes painting so great. Now you see, yeah, I just keep on filling in here. So yeah, I actually made a video which is on YouTube about this digital painting stuff, and also think I'm gonna make a video about AI, because I love AI when it comes to doing science, advanced science like physics, advanced medical treatments, because AI can go through billions of options and try different things so fast that we can make enormous leaps in medicine and stuff like that. But when it comes to artwork, I am afraid it's going to kill much of art. And you all already see that on YouTube, all these AI generated movies and generated historical documentaries, and it's just you feel there is something missing. It sounds like a human, it looks like a human, but it's not really human. Will this get better so you at some point can't see the difference between this kind of video, which I'm doing here, and AI? Maybe. But what is the point? What is the point with removing the human being from doing the art? And I think that as we progress into a deeper rabbit hole of digital art, and more of the real stuff actually cease to exist, the few of us that has the patience and the stamina to make real objects will over time be basically gold. In the end, it will be like this. Oh, is this made by a human? Wow. Do you really have a piece made of a human being? Is there even anybody who's doing this anymore? You know? And also the sad thing is that if you don't do it yourself, or people stop doing this kind of art or doing anything personal and just leaves it up to AI, what will happen with human potential? What will happen to what would we do in existence if we only gonna be entertained and take all these easy peasy ways to make something that looks cool and something we can actually earn money from? Now, if I could actually have an AI video program that could put my videos together, and okay, here you have 12 hours of footage, put it together, of course with my own voiceover and stuff, just to make it look better, that could be a good thing, because I use a lot of time to actually put together these videos. So, but in a way I prefer to do it the old way, and yeah, maybe it would be more popular if it were cooler. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's like my mobile telephone. How much am I using of my mobile telephone's potential? That is not much. Anyway, back to painting. Here you can see me filling out more of the starting to build the shadows. I start to go into the background, and that was also very difficult in this, because the colors were quite close together. So much of the blue that was in the background was basically almost like the colors in the dress. Luckily, there was also a lot of yellow in the dress, which of course is a consequence of that the background was quite bluish. So some of the parts of the dress had a lot of basically yellow and green, which is of course complementary colors to violets and blue and some orange, and there was a red and some green and some, you know, so there was a spectrum of colors in that dress. But to see it, to actually being able to differentiate the different colors from each other was quite difficult. Here you can see I add blue, here violet, and then you see there's some green there, and that color basically there's some yellowish, bluish beside the violet, and there's also some green or yellow. So I try to build the whole thing basically like the Impressionists do, by putting different colors between each other or beside each other. Here you see I start to fill out more darkness in the background, and you can actually see live here how the light really starts to pop out when I add more darkness in the background. Now some of these videos are differently has a different light, and you see that the colors kind of change a little bit between every segment. But yeah, now I go in here and I see here I actually had to adjust again, because I found out that there was did some drawing mistakes, and then I have to move things in the background also. And yeah, when I use the palette, I tend to try to grab colors. I don't know how much I actually mix the colors in the canvas, on the palette, but it's kind of it goes so fast for me now. I don't even think about it. I just see it and I do it and I grab it and I keep on building and I just add and subtract. Yeah, here we can actually go a little bit. Here you can see me the way I actually hold the brush. Sometimes you see I hold it different. Here I actually use what I said in the beginning. In the dresser, I hold it very lightly, so I can actually put on brush work in it. If you of course go to the main file, you can see me do this and talk about it when I do it. So you find a link to the main file in the description. It's funny how many brushworks, how many times do I touch a canvas like this? You see here I start to build at rows. I realize I did place it wrongly, so I just paint over that. You see I paint over it. I just repainted the whole rows. And then I start to build around there, because that is what I say. I do a crude sketch and just place things in, and then I start moving things around. So we're going in here to do more on the head. You see I put on the photo right beside it, zooming in, and yeah. As I say, I'm not 100% sure if I got this face totally right because of the deep tones there. I really had a hard time seeing it. When I actually finished doing this painting, I had this crazy girl in my life also who really screwed up my mind. So I had a very hard time to actually see and paint. It's very difficult to really kind of focus when you are always one step away from heartbreak, and also had a deadline and stuff like that. I actually, as I say in the main file, that I actually wonder if I'm going to take this painting back and do another go on it, but I'm not sure, because what many times happen is that when I get some distance to it and I see it after a year or two, as it gone time now since I made this, I actually feel, oh, it wasn't so bad after all, and I can leave it that as it is. And maybe if I saw it again in real life, as I said, I would have liked it a little bit better than I did when I actually were finished with it, which is not the right word to use here, maybe. You see here, I start to build here too. I start to build the directions, and I try to follow. I need to get this breast here to come out, and I have to use all the skill that I can, because I need to get it to kind of feel like it falls in. Then I go up to the here, then I go back there. You see, I work all over the place. And I remember one teacher, there, see, I go in with some lines there. I use actually very blue color and put some reddish in it, because don't use too much black when you make lines and stuff. Try to use colors, because colors keeps things alive. But as that teacher told me when in the start, when I was, how you paint more light textures in a dress, yeah. He told me to, because in the beginning he saw how I was doing it, and I was basically standing working on a nose for hours, and it is a way better method to kind of work all over the place. Of course, if you're gonna do a touch-up, when you really come to the end and you're just gonna do a touch-up, you might want to hyper focus on certain details, but try not to get hung up too much in the beginning. Try to keep it open and work. Try to make it into a dance, into some sort of martial arts, if you know, almost like a, what do you say? Almost like a training session where you do a full body workout and don't focus on only the biceps, you know. Like I do here when I do the dress, I put in some there. Okay, we'll go closer. Okay. I'm not really sure what I'm doing now, where I'm going. Okay, I'm going into the background. You see, I did first a dress, then I went into the background. And it's a nice effect actually, having that picture on the wall behind there to kind of create that depth behind. Actually, there were one more in the original photo. There were one more photo on the wall, but she didn't want to have that behind her head, and since it was a commission work, I made that compromise and I just removed it in Photoshop, and I printed out the one I'm using without that second. I think it would have been better with also having the other one in the background, because it kind of would made the distance between her head and the wall longer. I would have added in even more 3D effect, but she wanted me to remove it, and sometimes you just do a compromise. She also been a model for me and stuff, so, and she paid quite well for this painting, so I sometimes you just have to do a compromise. Here we can see it started going into. This is where I got into trouble, because is it blue? Is it orange? Is it what color is it? Now it is very hard to see how it really was, because when when I'm filming, I'm losing some colors in the paint, and my camera is changing the photo a little bit. So I'm not really getting the right colors in the film. It kind of is, it is almost there. So I basically lose some of the darker nuances. So if you think of this as darker, maybe that would be more correct. But you also see that there's a lot of what I had problems with here is, also look at the photo now, is basically, is it in the green or is it reddish? It's kind of all of the above. So there was so many things. Also, this photo was a little bit out of focus, which made it even harder, because I didn't really see the details so clearly. That can sometimes be a good thing, because if you can manage to paint it quite soft then, or blurry, that can be a cool effect within itself. But I really got into trouble here, because yeah. Anyway, painting more details in the face, part 2. So I do get closer, but I still struggle. I struggle with the nose, I struggle with the direction of the nose, I struggled with the chin there, how thick it was. I really did struggle. And sometimes I actually think it's a good thing that people don't really see what I see, because as you get skill, as you start to see stuff, you will be able to see more than you are able to do. You can actually see your own skill wall, and it can be really frustrating. But sometimes you shouldn't be complacent. You shouldn't do bad work. But you can keep in mind that most people won't be able to see what the hell you're talking about, because they will basically think it's great anyway. I'm not making any excuses, because as a painter you should never make any excuses. But yeah, you have to be hard on yourself, but at the same time give yourself some space to evolve. Yeah, it's really hard, because for me, getting it right is why I do it. I keep on, you see here, all the details I do. I try to find that right red here, so I get that nose right. And also, she is way more pretty, actually, in real life. I'm actually going to paint a portrait of her, a smaller one, so you can see how beautiful she actually is. She liked this face very well, because she has gone through a lot of stuff herself, and it reminded her of her own struggles and stuff. But she's way more pretty in real life than in this photo, which I'm painting. So that also annoyed me, that I felt that I didn't actually was able to catch her beauty, because it isn't the best photo, I think, or the best expression. But then it is very expressive. So, you know, it's hard to decide if I kind of like it or not. Yeah. Also, did I paint that face a little bit too long, or is it just? Also, the problem is when I do the paintings. Thank you. I had some coffee. When I do the physical painting, the physical paint, when I build the paintings, 3D, it tend to twist the perspective a little bit when I photograph it. In real life, it kind of was a little bit more like the photo. But then again, I have a bias, so it's quite difficult to know. Here I try to get in more of these curls. And here you have a choice. Do you do it like Philip Weber artist and become a super photorealist, which I'm not even able to be? Or do I accept that these curls aren't necessarily perfect and they are more painted? I have to go for the latter. I have to go for the last thing. I have to accept that this is a painting and that I can't really paint every single hair and every single curl. But that is actually what I try to do anyway. And that's a problem for me when it comes to being an artist, because I can't really decide totally what kind of artist or what kind of painter I want to be. And that is, of course, a way to put yourself up for failure, but also a way to push yourself and never be content. Because if you become complacent as a painter, as an artist, you stop evolving, and you don't want to stop evolving. Now you can actually see here how I just again and again and again, I just try and try and try to get it right. Maybe it would be better for me just to say, okay, I'm gonna go all in and I'm gonna try to get everything correct. Everything, you know? But then it would be basically a never-ending story. Now you see actually the face are starting to fall more into place there. I do start to get a hang on it. What I remember was really difficult was the inner eye there. Because when I looked at the photo, I saw more information that you can actually see here. So when I tried to paint it, I had problems actually getting the tones down. Yeah, that was a real problem, getting the tones down. And you can see that I painted it. That can be the film, actually, as I told you. It can be how the camera is interpreting the colors. I think I remember I had some more greenish and reddish in it. In this one now, it seems to be a little bit more in the blue. Now actually I'm having my head in front of it, so it's hard to see anything here. But yeah, there you see, I'm starting to get a hang on it. Now I'm actually starting to get a little bit impressed myself. So I was worried there for a while. But now I actually think I'm getting the hang of it. You see that the eyes are maybe a little bit different. I'm trying to get the lips right. It is basically one of the most difficult portraits I ever painted. And that was because of it was blurry and the colors were quite strange and very much happening in it. Anyway, there's a new segment, and I think I'm gonna paint the roses now. You can see some up close roses. We are now nearing the end of this video. It's like 10 minutes left here. So here you can actually see how roughly I painted the roses. And certain parts of the painting can be rough. What I do hope is that I will at some point in my life become so focused that I actually could make the whole painting very clear, but you know, that I basically had a time for it, or yeah, it's not easy. In many ways, I never feel that I get to the point where yeah, I think I actually brought out that Philip Weber artist there to explain actually his paintings. You have to go and see the main file. There you can actually experience what I talk about. So yeah, I'm looking at myself right now. I'm really not sure, because in a way I'm not really an impressionist. I'm not good enough with brushwork. I'm not as good as I would like to be, and I'm certainly as no Vermeer. So many times I actually feel that I fall in between many stools, or flere stoler, as we say in Norway. It's almost like I fall through too many cracks, and it's really hard to figure out what kind of painter I really try to be. Now, the important thing here is that I just try my best I try to do my best, okay, with what I have. So I hope you bear with me. And anyway, here you can see that I'm doing this rose, and I kind of just try to move it around and not really reaching a point where there was any clear resolution in that video. Here you can see me go back to the face and doing some of the last touch up here. See, I'm trying to get deeper into the colors here. Also, one of the problems was the difference between the warm colors and the cold colors was very big. Here you can also see that is a good thing to do when you want natural shadows. Try to add them in the end on top of what's already there. And if you do it with some glaze and you don't kind of add too much color, you will get that Rembrandt effect where, you know, the spear in the Night Watch, with his throwing that shadow on the dress of the guy in front. And the way you do that is basically glazing colors on top of already finished textures and objects. So then it actually get the illusion of being a real shadow hitting some, and there's some real light in it. I think the face came pretty close. So yeah. Now it's going to do some on the hand and the apple. And here you can actually see that I've been working more roughly with it. I also did some micro glazing there and adding. I also use my fingers, I use my nails, I use the back side of the brush. I use everything to just add in the different textures and colors. Now sometimes I actually get quite flabbergasted by watching my own videos, how the whole thing just gets built over time, and with every touch then with a finger again and trying to get this to look like an apple. It doesn't really have a yeah, there it has a little chord actually, and then suddenly you add this one, you add that symbol, and boom, it's an apple. So yeah, Also adding the finger in the background there. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Trying to get it right. Also, I added some light behind there that kind of comes from the hand. And these are typically classical ways to do it. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. So, last touch up all over. Thank God I'm done. I've been talking almost for an hour now. And here you see I just go in and I fix up. You can see this beautiful frame I'm using, quite expensive frames. I love having these frames on because it kind of they become like a window. If I could afford it, I would have used way bigger frames than this. Okay, so. Okay, welcome to the end of this video. I just finished this beauty. It is a painting of a of the Norwegian TV personality, Hedda Kise. It came up pretty nice. And here you can see some of the textures. And yeah, not bad, I think. I built it in the Rembrandtsk type of way. So here it is. And I hope you enjoy the whole tutorial. Also, check out my Patreon. You'll find a link in bio if you want to support my channel. Yay. Okay, here you can actually see some of the textures and some of the brushwork, how it came out. As I told you, here you can see the dress, how I just knitted it together. Basically, you can see all the brushwork, how I go back and forth, and how rough it actually is. Now, I hope that you you find a link to the main file, the 10-hour tutorial in the description. And I hope you give this one a thumbs up, you leave a comment, and you go to my Patreon, sign up, or you support me by buying me a coffee or just giving thumbs up, leave comments, and be nice, you know. It's all I ask for, it's not much. So with this, I hope to see you in my next video.